Good Tuesday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty to talk about. A lot of activity going on around the NFL as roster building season continues. Cavs will be in action against the Pacers tonight. Sam Amico from hoopswire.com will join us a little later in the show. But we begin by talking NFL football. Russell Wilson, within the last hour or so, has been traded, or at least terms of the trade have been agreed to. Not coming to the Browns, though. He is going to the Denver Broncos. Seattle gets quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick. The Broncos get Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick. Let's welcome in Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, I'm sure you've gotten some of the same little notes that I've gotten about why didn't the Browns. There were multiple teams that were interested. Russell Wilson has a no-trade clause. He had to approve where he was going.
Absolutely, 100%, and that is a key factor here. And it must be remembered that I do believe that the Cleveland Browns have inquired about some of these quarterbacks or have at least done their due diligence on most of these veteran quarterbacks that have become available. They have to. We've been talking about it for months and months now. They absolutely have to do that sort of thing. But as you mentioned, the Russell Wilson had the no trade clause. He had a list of places that he wanted to go, and we don't know if he would have done that or not. Then the compensation had to be right. So here we are.
The fallout of it is, and reports are coming out that there may be more players available from the Seahawks. This one from Evan Massey. He says that sources are saying that Tyler Lockett may be available. Plenty of teams needing wide receiver help. He's somebody to keep an eye on. And again, Mary Kay, as we've talked about, you can be sure the Browns will be looking into all avenues to acquire wide receiver help.
Absolutely. I mean, they probably would have been interested in Calvin Ridley had they not discovered early on in the process that he was not trade fodder for them because of the investigation that was underway. And obviously we know that he was suspended for at least all of 2022 for betting on NFL games. But he was one of those guys that he was in the prime of his career. He had been amazing in 2020, made second team All-Pro, 90 receptions. He fit the profile, a guy that needs a change of scenery, maybe surround him with a good supporting cast and a good system and see what he can do here. But that became untenable when it came to light that he was going to get suspended. So yes, they are going to kick the tires on all of the receivers, all of the quarterbacks, and plenty of other good players at other positions.
Is Lockett a guy you think that Andrew Berry looks and sees, at least looks into?
I would think so. I would think that they have to. They have to look at it. It doesn't mean they will pick up the phone and try to trade for him, but they will look into it. I mean, they have no choice. They are obligated to do so with the climate they're in right now at that position.
Well, another guy that's quarterback that names were connected to different teams, Aaron Rodgers staying with the Packers. Again, none of these deals can become official until the league year starts. The terms of this one reported to be 4 years, $200 million, largest in the NFL. And Mary Kay, I know you had some thoughts on this, that there's good news with Aaron Rodgers staying with the Packers, at least where the Browns are concerned.
Well, yes, because obviously that means that the Steelers were not able to get their hands on Aaron Rodgers, and there were reports that they wanted to do just that. So absolutely, that is big news for the Cleveland Browns, that they're not going to be vying or competing against Aaron Rodgers twice a season over the next how many ever years. It also means, of course, though, that the Browns were not able to take a legitimate shot at him and see if they could try to bring him to Cleveland.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We've got a couple of them today. This one about the Browns quarterback position and an idea here.
Hi. I wanted to talk about that it's been suggested to bring in a good backup for Baker Mayfield. I think actually that is a great idea. I think you need to bring him a backup that would compete with him and make him better. Everybody forgets how good Baker was at Oklahoma. He was really good that he actually kept Kyler Murray on the bench. A lot of people actually forget that he was that good. It's been told that, well, that was just Lincoln Riley, playing a lot of favoritism over Mayfield, over Kyler Murray. But this year, we saw Lincoln Riley actually bench his Heisman hopeful quarterback over a true freshman quarterback because he thought the true freshman would give him a chance to win. So that's how good Mayfield was. So, yeah, I think we should bring in a backup that would push Baker to be better, that would actually scare him a little into thinking he might lose his job. I think that would motivate him to be better. Thank you.
All right. As always, we appreciate all the voicemails. And Mary Kay, that's, people do tend to forget that. And Baker Mayfield is, we've said it, he's the kind of guy that put a challenge in front of him, he seems to respond to it.
He really does. And I do think it would be a good idea to bring in some good veteran backup for Baker Mayfield, such as a Mitchell Trubisky, which I'm on record as writing a column about that. Having said that, I really think that Mitch is going to get an opportunity to start somewhere in 2022, in part because the pickings are so slim and because the demand is so high. He rises to the level of a starting quarterback this year, where he was not able to get a job like that last year. So I do think that's something to keep an eye on. But if it doesn't happen, I mean, maybe the Browns throw enough money at him that it makes it attractive for him to come in here and try to compete. And maybe he bets on himself and thinks that, that somehow this would be a good landing spot for him. Having said all that, of course, though, I just don't know that that's something like that's going to happen. These are things that I would think about doing, not necessarily things that I actually think the Browns will do. And I don't know that they would go down the Mitch Trubisky road.
All right. Let me throw this one at you. If by some way, and I don't think it's going to happen, I don't think you think it's going to happen, but if by some way Malik Willis falls and is sitting there at 13, how serious do you think Andrew Berry thinks about taking him? And do you think if he was there at 13, Andrew Berry would take the quarterback from Liberty?
It's such a good question. And of course, the Browns would never show their hand on something like this at this point. They will keep this so close to the vest, and they have to. If you're interested in a guy like that, you're certainly not going to let the world know. You're going to keep that as secret as you possibly can. So I truly don't have any idea how they feel about doing something like that. But it just makes so much sense to me to take that chance on a quarterback with those kind of traits right there at 13, if he fell that far. Again, I don't think he's even going to fall that far. I think that he has shown enough at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine and on his tape from a trait standpoint and from a character standpoint that I think someone will take a chance on him higher. And so therefore, I don't see it happening, but I would certainly do it. I've said it before. I would probably even trade up to do it, because if you make a mistake trying to do something like that, you can overcome it. But if you hit it and you nail it, then you're set for the next decade. So why not take a chance?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. All right. This one from a Hey Mary Kay. Should the Browns trade down at 13 to get an extra first rounder for next year to try to potentially position for a quarterback? We've also had a couple of voicemailers ask that. Just your opinion on that, on potentially trying to do something along those lines.
Well, it all depends on how they have their board set up. If a couple of their top guys that they really covet and number 13 overall are gone, and they have equally rated guys down lower in the draft that they feel that they could get, at 21 or 22 or something like that, and still pick up an extra first round pick for next year, then absolutely it's something to consider, and something that they will consider. It would make total sense to do that and to position yourself to possibly draft one of the excellent quarterbacks coming out next year. So Andrew Berry is very smart and shrewd when it comes to these kinds of things, and that will be an option on the table.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we turn our attention to wide receivers. Also have a voicemail of truth and reason with one of those wide receivers. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with the Browns beat reporter Mary Kay Cabot from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Time to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about a potential wide receiver trade target.
Hey, this is James Seiler here. I just caught the news about Calvin Ridley, and all I can say is thank goodness we didn't give up any assets for him now that he's been suspended indefinitely for gambling on NFL games. That was the type of player you really didn't need in the locker room anyways. Thank you very much.
All right. As always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. And Mary Kay, you probably know this better than I do. Reports were the Falcons didn't even engage anybody who inquired because they knew something was coming down with the investigation.
Right, and I've said a few times before. I mean, Calvin Ridley was the kind of player that the Browns do look to make a trade for, a player that needs a change of scenery, and a player that is still in the prime of his career, and just around the right age group, and that has some production, excellent production in his past with some good upside. So 100%, I think that he would have been somebody on their radar. But they learned early on in the process that he was not going to be a possibility for them.
Yeah, and again, he bet on a mobile thing, and it's something that the NFL is going to have to kind of deal with because they are embracing that revenue stream as more and more sports wagering becomes legalized. So that's going to be something that they're going to have to figure out coming up. All right, let's turn our attention to free agent wide receivers, and a number of the top-end ones are off the board. They never made it to free agency. So Chris Godwin is not there. Devontae Adams not there. Mike Williams signed a long-term deal. So when you look at the free agent group, you've got Allen Robinson, Michael Gallup, Russell Gage, Juju Smith-Schuster, Christian Kirk. Amari Cooper is expected to be let go, released, so he would join that group as well, and DJ Chark. Are those kind of the guys that the Browns are looking at? That's now kind of the higher end of the wide receiving core, that wide receivers in free agency right now.
Well, yes, absolutely. They have to really look at all those guys and try to figure out which ones or one might be a fit for them, and maybe target one or two of them and try to land with. I really think that they need to acquire at least one starting caliber receiver in a trade or free agency, as well as draft 1 or 2 good receivers. So you will see the wide receiver room change drastically. But as you mentioned, I mean, these guys are not becoming available in the way, you might have hoped they would have. And so, you're really going to have to try very hard to add that savvy veteran. And then also, let's still not completely 100% rule out re-signing Jarvis Landry. If you throw enough money at the situation, or enough incentives, or enough guaranteed money with ways to make it up, that one's just, it's not completely dead in the water yet.
All right, so let's take a look at a mock draft. This one from Pro Football Focus, and it was done fairly recently, within the last couple of days. Brad Spielberger has the Browns taking Garrett Wilson, silky smooth route runner, great hands, number 1 wide receiver in the class, at least in the conversation. You saw him at the Combine, 4.38 40. Everybody likes him because they saw him a lot at Ohio State, and he was pretty good at Ohio State. You saw him at the Combine. Do you think he makes it to 13? I have some real concerns after 4.38 at the Combine.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone was sort of on that fast track at the Combine, and I think most of the numbers in the 40 came in way faster than most people thought they would. So we'll have to see how those times hold up as these guys go through their pro days. But certainly Garrett Wilson is a phenomenal prospect. I think he fits the kind of profile, the player the Browns are looking for at that position. And I think he would be perfect. I think it would be a perfect fit. I would think that he is very, very high on their list of players at number 13. And again, he may have priced himself out of number 13 with his showing so far. But, they could also, if they like him enough, could also try to climb up a little bit to get it.
So you were at the Combine in Indianapolis. Who of the wide receivers did you like? I mean, who kind of showed it? You kind of touched on it there. There was a lot of higher end wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a good class. It's a really good class. I like the 2 Ohio State guys a lot. Now, if you were going to go with Olave, maybe you do move. Maybe he's the guy that falls into that category of, if you can move back some. Say someone wants to jump up to number 13 and draft a quarterback, because if the Browns don't like a quarterback there will be teams that need one and might be willing to jump up there to number 13. So maybe you move back some in the first round and you go with an Olave. Maybe he's, not quite on the same exact rung as where Garrett Wilson is, but maybe he's not too far behind. He had a really nice showing at the Combine. So those 2 guys did a great job. Drake London really didn't work out too much there. Treylon Burks, different type and style of receiver, but he had a really nice workout there. And then a guy that I've been talking about for a long time, and I still like him a lot, and that is Calvin Austin III from Memphis. I got to talk to him one-on-one at the Senior Bowl. I really kind of caught on to him there. I watched him practice there for those few days. I was very, very impressed with him. He is definitely on the short side. He's under 5'8", so he seems like sort of a gadget player, but he is, he's built. I mean, he's stocky. If you watched some of the Combine, you could see that this is not a small man by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he is really muscled up, and he's stocky. And so, I think he can hold up against some NFL competition. He's certainly fast enough to do it, and he's got really good hands. I watched those with my own 2 eyes. Go watch some film on him. I picked him and with the comp pick in the 3rd round, but I don't think he's going to last that long. It's almost like you'd have to get him in the 2nd round now.
When you look at the Browns remaking the receiver room, are they going to look for different body types, different skill? It's not like, okay, this is our prototypical wide receiver, we need this guy. Are they going to look for different body types, different skill sets to try to build out that room, do you think?
Yeah, probably. But, they already have a couple of things on their roster. I mean, they've got Donovan Peoples-Jones, who represents sort of the bigger guy that's going to go up and win the contested ball most of the time. I think what they need is speed. I think they sort of need an Odell kind of a guy. So I'm thinking in my mind, if I were drafting the receiver or the receivers, I would go with smaller, shifty, and I would focus on speed, lots of speed. And one reason why I say that is because they do have a lot of big, tall targets in their tight ends, and they use them a lot in the passing game. So I think then now, you can pair that and complement those tight ends with the smaller, shiftier receivers, and then you have a little bit of everything.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside. We head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason with a draft question, a what if. That's straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Thanks for buying a fishing license. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Every dollar protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Visit takemefishing.org.
We continue talking Browns with Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, Mary Kay Cabot. Time to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason with a question about what happens in the draft if.
Hi there. If Andrew Berry's top 2 or even 3 targeted receivers are gone by pick number 13, do you think he could go another route like Fast Risers defensive end Travon Walker, or trade back a couple spots and possibly get defensive tackle Jordan Davis for that D-line? These 2 Georgia Bulldogs, they really look pro-ready right now. We need some star power lined up with Myles on that D-line that will be there for years to come. Thanks for taking my question. Bye now.
All right. As always, appreciate the voicemails. Mary Kay, that's a very good question, and legitimately, another name I'd throw out there would be the Purdue guy, George Karlaftis. That'll be a tough decision. If those guys are all there at 13 and the 2 or 3 wide receivers Andrew Berry has ranked highest, that'll be something he's looking at.
Absolutely, 100%. And it will also be fluid on draft day, obviously, depending on what happens. But it is a very, very deep defensive line class. Those guys have great tape. They had a great showing at the combine. Again, it was a fast track, so the numbers came in very, very lightning quick. And, a lot of people are all gaga over certain guys because of some of those numbers. We have to be a little careful about that. But it's definitely a great D-line class. They need them. It's a premium position. They don't know what's happening with Jadeveon Clowney yet at the number 2 edge spot. So certainly that is a position to look at.
Will we get a clue when the league year starts and we start seeing some of the free agent signings? In other words, if a couple of DNs have signed, it's probably wide receiver. If a couple wide receivers sign, it might be a DN. Are they kind of intermixed there?
Yes, absolutely. For the most part, if you go out and you spend a ton of money on on a wide receiver or a defensive end, that can inform what you do with that number 13 overall pick. I mean, in 2020, had the Browns gone out and signed Trent Williams, then they probably wouldn't have drafted Jed Wills at number 10 overall. So I do think that it does give you a great indication of what's going to happen in the first round if you leave open that gaping hole. So that's something to watch as we go through the next 2 weeks.
The other thing is the Browns definitely need defensive line and wide receiver help. Those are the two strengths of this draft. It's lined up pretty well, correct?
It really is. And it is also, lends itself to trying to figure out which way to go. But they do have enough ammo to move back into the first round if necessary and grab one of those positions. That's also, something they can do. They've got extra picks. They can give something up, next year if necessary. And if they see something that they like, they can go up and try to grab it. Also, if you remember, obviously back to last year, because of the way that they evaluate and they, are very skilled at what they're doing, they were able to get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in the second round at number 52 overall. They had him rated as a first rounder, would have been happy with him at number 26. So they're hoping that they can get a similar bargain this year.
All right, so yesterday, Browns franchise tagged David Njoku, and then we hear this. So the plan is to potentially keep both David Njoku and Austin Hooper. It ties up a lot of money in the tight end room, but they do use tight ends, and they have plenty of salary cap space. The cap's up to $208 million. Is that something that you're hearing as well, that the signing of Njoku to a big dollar contract does not mean that Austin Hooper is not going to be with the team?
No, when I initially wrote my story, I basically said that it could result in a spin-off move with Austin Hooper, depending on how they view that room and what comes up over the next couple of weeks. So I never say never in these situations. Just because you have plans to do a certain thing doesn't mean that those plans can't change. They're going to be open-minded, and they will kind of take it come as may over the next 2 weeks. And if somebody wants to trade for Austin Hooper, looking for a number one tight end, maybe they would be open-minded to it. But I don't think that they would rule out keeping both of those guys. As you mentioned, they do use their two tight ends a lot, even though I now think that David Njoku is the number one tight end and probably will be viewed as such. It doesn't mean that they won't keep both of those guys and at the price point they're at right now.
So the other thing is, and I know you had this as one of your Hey Mary Kays, what players could the Browns restructure their contracts? What makes sense, and who might be agreeable to potentially doing that?
Well, the number one player to look at in that category right now is Jarvis Landry. And that's another never say never situation. It seems right now like he's probably gone. It always feels like goodbye with his Twitter rant and with the things Andrew Berry has said and with the things Kevin Stefanski has said. It feels like, he will move on and that will be it. But, things can change. So I think if the Browns structure the contract in a way that gives him enough guaranteed money and a chance to make up some of what he lost, he likes it here. His family's gotten used to it here. He has said that he would like to be back and that the ball is in the Browns' court now. If he wants to be back, like he said he does, and the Browns would like to have him back, at least that's a good starting point. And who knows if it'll happen, but I'm not ruling it out.
All right. The other thing that happened is the Browns did not exercise the option on Andy Janovich's contract. So he will be a free agent when the league year begins. Is it just me, or did the Browns not seem to use a fullback as much as they had in previous years? Were they getting away from that a little bit?
Yeah, they did get away from that. They only used Andy Janovich 11% of the time. So, he really did not play a big role at all. And I guess the way that the offense is going to continue to evolve, they don't necessarily see the need for him next season. So they still have Johnny Stanton on the roster in the event that they need a fullback, but I think that he has the versatility to play an H-back role, maybe play a little bit of tight end here and there, and some special teams. So it works out for them.
Again, it's kind of the evolution of Kevin Stefanski's offense. It's not like it's going to be broad sweeping changes, but there are going to be more subtleties that are added to this offense, correct?
Yeah, and I don't even know if they will be subtle. I mean, it depends on the personnel. I mean, if you have 3 really good receivers, then I think you will play 3 wides a lot more than you did before. If you've got a quarterback that is healthy and feeling good and able to get the ball to those wideouts, especially downfield, then you're going to have more of a vertical passing game. So I think it is all dictated by the personnel that you have.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter, and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. Other side of the break, we turn our attention to some free agent names, legalized tampering, so the negotiations can officially begin with NFL free agents next Monday. They can start signing middle of next week. We're going to talk about some wide receivers that figure to be available. Sports4CLE, will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. So free agency will get underway officially Monday when teams can start legalized tampering. That means they can start negotiating contracts, talking numbers. One of the guys that is expected to be out there, Amari Cooper, wide receiver from the Dallas Cowboys. NFL Analysis Network has the Browns as the top of 3 potential landing spots. Good fit for the Browns offense as the go-to receiver for Baker Mayfield or whoever's under center. Likely a little cheaper than the other top options on the market, allowing Cleveland to spend some money elsewhere on the roster to upgrade the talent on the team. Mary Kay, a lot of those other guys that they were talking about are not on the market, as Williams signed a long-term deal, Godwin franchise tagged and just didn't materialize. This was a guy that was due $20 million. Is he somebody that Andrew Berry is looking at, do you think, if he becomes available as expected?
Sure, he would have to. I mean, this is exactly the kind of guy that you would think about to plug in as your ex go-to, sort of number one receiver type of guy. So 100% he will have to take a look at Amari Cooper. Now, as you mentioned, with so many of the other guys coming off the market, getting tied up by their own teams, he will be in more demand than he would have been, maybe even a week ago. So he won't be easy to land, but if that's somebody that they have their eye on, they've got the money to throw at it.
Yeah, and again, he was due, I think it was $20 million for the Cowboys, who were in a mess with their salary cap. All right, free agent fits for every AFC team. This is another wide receiver, a younger one, probably more reasonably priced, DJ Chark. Just 25 years old, had a 1,000-yard season, earned a Pro Bowl invite just 2 years ago, was not really healthy last year. A healthy Chark, huge value for the Browns. This has the feel of a guy that Andrew Berry would really put his eye on. If they evaluate him to be as good as some of the people think he is, this just has the feel of an Andrew Berry type of signing to me. The age and the production and an off year and value seem to all add up to the way Andrew Berry has operated the first 2 years to me.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you do get some clues, and the age of 25, that's like his favorite age, isn't it? I mean, that is the range that he goes for, a player still in his prime, that has plenty of upside, that wasn't used in the way that the Browns might plan to use him going forward. Someone that has production in his past, and that you can get for a somewhat reasonable amount of money. So I would say yes, he would fit the profile of what they look for.
Yeah, that's by and large, guys that he has signed have still been ascending, kind of on the way up. So this one is a little different. This one, three possible free agent destinations for Chandler Jones, same NFL Analysis Network. They had the Patriots 1, the Browns 2, and the Broncos 3. If the Browns lose Clowney, Jones would be a great replacement. May not be as good a run defender as Clowney, certainly a bigger pass rush threat off the edge. The one thing about Jones that I don't know if Andrew Berry would be interested, he's older. I think he's 33, I want to say, something along those lines. And that just isn't, again, my sense is that's not how he's operated the first couple years.
No, I don't think so either. And plus, he started out really strongly, and then he tapered off. Remember, he had those 5 sacks, I think it was, in one game against Taylor Lewan, and then he kind of fell off and did not have that much production as the rest of the year went on. So I don't see that as someone that they will be hot on his trail. But in the event that they don't get an answer right away from Jadeveon Clowney, they are going to have to start thinking about what they want to do there. And again, they could end up having to draft a player to replace Jadeveon if he doesn't come back, or maybe they give him a certain amount of time to make up his mind. But it's definitely an area of concern.
Yeah, and the other thing is they need tackles as well. Malik Jackson's stuff, or Malik Jackson probably not back, Malik McDowell with his issues. So they need to fortify the tackle position as well. They do, and they will add to that pile. But I think they also feel pretty good about Jordan Elliott and Tommy Togiai there. And I don't think that they view, at least in their scheme, defensive tackle as a really super hard to find position, or a real, premium position where they have to go out and, spend a number 6 overall pick on that guy, or, spend $20 million a year. So I think they'll be okay there. All right, before we let you go, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason one last time. This one kind of about roster building.
Hey, Dave, how's it going? Doing a great job. I just wanted to make a comment and a question. So first comment is 3 parts. Number 1, we all know Baker's not going anywhere. Okay, number 2, we can all go back and forth on offense, defense, lines, whatever. But don't mess with the defense. Defense is pretty good, except for maybe an edge rusher. Offensive linemen, though, that'd be great. Put a better circle around Baker, and also open up the holes for Chubb to do the Chubb thing. And then number 3, and probably more interesting, is the fact that you guys haven't discussed anything about the kickers. And we all know that 99.9%, if you watched anything last season, 2021, all the games in the fourth quarter in the last 2 to 3 minutes came down to the kicker winning the ball game. So, I was just wondering, when are you going to get to the discussion about, kickers? Thanks for your time.
All right. As always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. Yeah, they need to upgrade the kickers, but you kind of got to build out and worry about the offense and defense and then build the kickers as well. But yes, they do need to upgrade the kickers. Your thoughts?
Obviously they do. It's just a matter of if they want to use one of their draft picks on a kicker. I think they probably should this year. You can't leave that to chance. And they've got extra picks in the 3rd and 4th rounds. I wouldn't be surprised to see them take one.
The other thing is the defense. You've got a really good young core, but again, you need to fortify that. You've got people at every level now. And before I let you go, do you expect the Denzel Ward extension to get done reasonably soon, or is there just not that much rush? They know they're going to extend him, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think they will try to do that, at least before the start of the season. And, I think that they just want to get through free agency and maybe get through the draft. So I don't think it's on the front burner right now. I think they want to see where some of these other things shake out, and then they can turn their attention to Denzel. Once again, since it's not a sense of urgency, he's under contract for next year. It will, I'm sure, will happen. It just doesn't need to be today.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. As always, Mary Kay, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot. Make sure you read her pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers, a game with the Indiana Pacers coming up. Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We turn our attention to the Cavaliers getting ready for a game with the Indiana Pacers, coming off an important win over the Toronto Raptors. Important because Cavs in 6th place, Raptors 7th, so Raptors in that top play-in spot. Cavs not in the play-in. Now have a 3-game lead on the Raptors and the tiebreaker because they swept the season series. They did lose Jarrett Allen, though, indefinitely. Let's welcome in Sam Amico. And Sam, when it takes a team a while to update an injury like a fractured finger, it's usually an indication that that guy's going to miss some time. Are you getting that sense with Jarrett Allen?
Yeah, for sure. It's like he's kind of, figuring out the option to go from here. Now, of course, the good news is, if there's good news in this, is that it's non-shooting hand. So if it were a shooting hand, it would be really, really problematic. But, these things can take a little while to heal. Probably going to have to come back and play before it's totally healed. Just being where they are in the season right now. So generally, yeah, you think a month, but that's just a wild guess. And really, you hope that it's not that long, because clearly they need him. He's an all-star.
Yeah, and it's been one thing after another, and somehow they're still in that 6th spot. I mean, you think about the injuries that this team, and it's a really young team. What do they miss most with Allen? Is it his defense? He's a guy that probably is shooting as well as anybody from the field, because he doesn't shoot a lot and he still scores.
Yeah, well, it's his defense first and foremost, because when they're successful, the guards are able to drive their men into those tall towers of Mobley and Allen, and their length and their leaping ability really disrupts people. So you take one of those guys away. Now, granted, you finally got Markkanen back, so he offers some of that length and help in that area too. But as does Ed Davis. Ed Davis has done a nice job. He's a veteran, filling in when other big guys are out, when Allen was out in the past. But now you're going to go through a long stretch of it. So, and as you mentioned, Dave, he is shooting a very high percentage from the floor, Jarrett Allen. So they're going to miss that consistency at the offensive end. We've seen Darius Garland get in the lane and throw up those little lobs to Allen that he dunks home. So, this is just another case of everybody else needing to step up a little bit, because you're in another situation where you're missing a key player. You've missed Allen once before for a little bit, Okoro, Garland, I'm Mobley for a while. So it's just a matter of them maintaining that defensive identity and trying to do things defensively first, and then letting that lead to offensive possessions and baskets.
So Evan Mobley was a guy after Allen left who really stepped up and kind of switched and altered his game as needed. Mobley talked about doing that and being able to do what the Cavs need him to do. Here's Evan Mobley.
It helps a lot. I feel like we've been doing that all year. Every time somebody comes out, other people step up, and that's what makes us such a good team. We're just so deep. Like, everyone can do a lot of things, and that really helps us. Trying to really just stay consistent as possible. Just like I said earlier, never too high, never too low. Games are always going to come and be there. It's a long season, so you just got to keep maintaining and stay consistent as possible.
And, the one thing about Mobley, Sam, when they've needed him, he's found a way to do what's needed. He looked like he had hit a little bit of that rookie wall, and then, Allen goes out, and boom. I mean, how impressive is that? Hey, they need me to do this. I'm going to kind of morph my game for a rookie to be able to do that.
They'll need more of that, and you're right. He did kind of seem to hit a rookie wall in there for part of the season. So maybe this last game against the Raptors gave him an opportunity to stand out and to shine a little bit more, and they're going to need that, obviously, for him to be more aggressive, particularly on the offensive end, look for his shot more often. It's a tough, a lot to ask of a rookie player who really has played almost twice as many games as he did in college, to come in now that you're, mentally and physically exhausted from the NBA regular season, to come in and say, you know what, you have to step up your role. But we saw against the Raptors, he's certainly capable. He's a wonderfully skilled man. He's in terms of very fundamentally sound, but he's a good athlete. He's a very smart player. Those are all the benefits. The only negative is, you're going to have to perform even more than you were before, because we're missing our all-star centers. So you are the big man on campus, so to speak. So he and Markkanen both, Markkanen's going to have to keep doing what he does and do it well. Those guys are going to be under a little bit more pressure now in terms of, the opposing team's defenses are going to be able to key on them a little bit more. So, you'll need Kevin Love. Dean Wade had, obviously spectacular dunk last game. They're going to need those guys to go back to doing what they did before. And the earlier part of this season, just playing with tons of energy and really making shots, and the rest will take care of itself, you hope.
All right, so we know Draymond Green has an opinion about everything, and this one is his opinion about Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley will be most improved and an all-star next year. What do you think of that?
I think it's hard to argue. You know, usually we argue with Draymond, but this time it sounds pretty accurate. So he does have that kind of game, Mobley. I mean, we've heard the comparison in terms of efficiency and effectiveness to future Tim Duncan, future Kevin Garnett, future Chris Bosh. All of those guys, he has that type of ability. He's showing that. He just needs to grow, get more experience, and feel more comfortable. You know, we've heard him talk a lot about feeling more comfortable with not just the Cavaliers, but the pro game. I mean, he's had to not adjust to the Cavs and his new teammates, but obviously a whole different level of play, just as any rookie does. This is, you know, you're playing against the equivalent of college all-stars every night, 82 times a year if you're lucky enough to be healthy for all 82. And then in the Cavs case, you're going to have the playoffs. So this is a great training ground for him. We've seen the leaps that, you know, look at Darius Garland's rookie year compared to this year. It takes a little bit of time for guys to get where they fully need to go. And Mobley is already very good. So, yeah, the future is very bright. I would not argue with Green. I think that Mobley is very much potentially an all-star for next season.
All right. Before we take a quick break, so Allen's going to be out. What's the recipe for the Cavs to win with him out?
Yeah, it's going to start at the defensive end, as it always has. You know, that's where they found their success. We saw the other night they kept the Raptors below 100 points. If they can keep teams below 100, they're going to be fantastic. And remember, they did most of that without Allen. So it's not impossible for them to continue to do that. And it's just that end of the floor keeps you in road games. It keeps you in playoff games against superior opponents. That's what makes you successful. If you can stay with it defensively, they're going to be just fine. You know, and then, of course, offensively, they've done a nice job. They continue to move the ball, get good looks at the basket. They don't have too many problems on offense. It's when they go into these little funks, it all starts defensively, little things like rebounding, getting to loose balls, and that's something that Coach Bickerstaff, you know, preaches every game, is that if we do these things, we're going to give ourselves a chance to win. You know, and if we can slow the other team down, make them miserable, and you know, do the things we need to do on offense, which they've done all year, we're going to have a pretty decent shot to win these games and play with great determination. They've done that throughout all of these injuries. They've, for the most part, played with great determination. And when they do that and that good belief that they can win, they always have a shot.
Sam Amico from HoopsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we will take a look at Darius Garland. Some thoughts from GMs around the league on who they would build their team around. We'll also take a look at the Cavs' next few games. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Cavs. So 15 league scouts, executives voted on which point guard on their rookie deal they would build their team around. Tough to argue. And you see, though, Darius Garland, 6th most votes. You see it, Doncic and Morant, hard to argue with. Let me ask you this. As you look at that, I'm not surprised by it, Sam. But where is Garland going to be in a year or two, do you think, relative to where he is now? keeping in mind he didn't have a whole lot of college and is really starting to, I mean, his thing's going like that.
Yeah, he's on the way up, that's for sure. I would say that he probably, I mean, there's no shame in finishing 4th or 5th on that list.
Yeah.
So I would say that he's probably, you look at Doncic and Morant and Trae Young, I think he's probably right after that. LaMelo Ball, obviously, one thing people don't realize about LaMelo Ball is he's a very good defender already, too, when he's got length. So, if you're in that conversation, you're in good company, and I think sometimes, writers, we haven't seen much of the Cavs on national television lately, okay? When LeBron James leaves, there's usually not a whole lot of national TV games. So when there's not a lot of national TV games, writers from outside the Cleveland area or reporters, TV guys, really aren't getting a chance to see Garland. So he's definitely in that mix. I mean, look, Doncic and Morant are on another level. Trae Young's way up there. And then you have, really to me, Ball and Garland are the next two. I think you could go either way. But, for the Cavs, all that matters is that Darius Garland keeps playing like he's playing, keeps continuing his rise. And he's got to cut down on the turnovers a little bit, but he knows that. So it's just a matter of how well do you fit with your team. And really, Garland fits as well with the Cavs as those other point guards do with their own teams. So, really all that matters to the Cavs, they don't care about that list. They care about the standings. And as long as he continues to mature as a player, which he's showing that he's done, he'll be just fine, and he'll be an all-star for years to come.
Yeah, the offense definitely looks different when he is running it for the Cavs. All right, Pacers tonight. What are you looking for? They lost to the Pistons when we were talking about it. Pacers are a team they probably should beat. What do you need to see to know that they're going to be okay and get through the next couple weeks or month without Jarrett Allen?
Yeah, and it seems like the Cavaliers just need more than anything to go into a place where, a lot of teams are able to win. The Pacers aren't that great right now, but you can't let yourself think that. You have to think, again, as Okoro said a couple weeks back, you always have to approach every game with an underdog mentality, whether it's the Pacers, the Bulls, the Heat, the Sixers, or even a lowly team, like the Orlando Magic. You've got to approach every game as if we're the underdogs here. So that means we have to give a full effort for 48 minutes. Last two games against Indiana, of course, they came back from 20 and 21 down, and that was probably because you don't get up for those games a lot of times. So in this situation, regardless of who you're playing, you got to come out with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy, which sadly a little bit for the Cavs has not always been the case, especially since about the start of February, and they need to kind of get that go back.
When you look at after the Pacers, they have back-to-backs with the Bulls and the Heat. Those are two teams that are ahead of them now. The Bulls are only a game and a half ahead of them, have lost 5 straight. So it's still bunched up. Cavs, though, have separated from that 7th spot. Important because it's the play-in tournament. How important and how much of a mindset is it for the Cavs to make sure they're one of those top 6 so they don't have to mess with the play-in?
Yeah, the playoffs have already started in that sense. The good news for them is the schedule after this little stretch here of Bulls and Heat, it should theoretically soften with some home games against teams that aren't playoff teams and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the Bulls have a little jaunt through the West Coast coming up. The Raptors have a massive West Coast swing coming up. So, if you are able to take care of business, you should give yourself some separation from Toronto and that play-in tournament and maintain the 6th seed. And you never know, if you can take care of business here in the games that you're supposed to win, then you should maybe either be able to catch Chicago or move up to 5 or something. I don't foresee Boston slipping any. If anything, they'll probably rise. So really, it's a three-way battle between the Cavs, Bulls, and Raptors. And if you're the Cavs, all you look at right now is saying, we just need to keep winning games, not losing games that we have circled on our schedule as we're favored in that game, we should win. And if you take care of that business, you're going to be just fine, and you won't have to worry about doing a play-in tournament and working your way into the playoffs that way. You'll be set already with a 5th or 6th seed, I suspect.
Yeah, and that's as we talked about, those are kind of the lessons that a young team needs to learn. Bring it every night and beat the teams you should, split with the other guys, and you're going to have a really good type of season. Sam Amico from hoopswire.com, as always. Sam, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much.
All right, thank you, Dave, and we will talk to you soon, I'm sure.
All right, Sam Amico, make sure you read him, hoopswire.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. See you again back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We'll talk to Tim Bielik about some free agency and scouting combine stuff. Also hear from Western Michigan head football coach Tim Lester about a couple of guys he had show off at the combine. Sports for CLE tomorrow, 4 o'clock. See you then. Have a great night, everybody.